Hi everyone, this is Deb, and I am going to be doing some sewing today and putting a sewing video out there, or at least that's my plan. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you a book that I put together that's very similar to the project that we're going to work on, but it's bigger. It's a bigger project. So the one that we are currently working on is, as I've mentioned before, is kind of intended to be a needle book, so it's going to be smaller, just to get your feet wet in doing paper projects. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I did want to show you this project that I have done in the past, and just so that you can kind of get an idea of where we're going and what the concept is. So in this particular case, I used an old file folder, an old green file folder that I cut up, and this was a pincushion, a vintage pincushion. It was full of old sawdust, and I used it for years, as you can see. I mean, it's all full of holes. And so when it got to the point where it had so many holes that all the sawdust was coming out, I very carefully, the sawdust was in this part, I took it all apart and saved it because it was so pretty. Anyway, I ended up putting it on this. And so what you'll see on the inside, let me move this, is that this is sewn in. I've got 3 different signatures, and so each signature is sewn in differently. So here's one signature, here's another signature. So they're all sewn in differently. In our case, we're only going to have one signature and we're going to sew it in not by hand but by machine. So, but I wanted to explain that to you. So anyway, on the inside, I kind of have a little booklet that I made, and this whole book is kind of like me. It represents me, the things that I like, the things that I do, you know, the things that I have done. So like here is some flowers that I pressed. Here is a piece of lace that somebody gave to me. Someone also gave me this, and I made it into a little booklet. I like Maggie Bonanami and Pineberry Lane, so I put some of their patterns in there after I aged them. These are all coffee dyed paper, or not coffee, but tea dyed paper. Here's an old quilt block that I used as a page. This is a page from a book, which happens to be a book that I got way back ancient years ago in the 70s. I went to the Betty Crocker store in Minneapolis and bought a book, Kitchen Gardens, and I disassembled the book, and you'll see a lot of those. That's where this also came from, because I like doing gardening and things. So this is a piece of old piano roll, piano player roll, and I've just stuck little bits and bobs on there. So the idea is that you're just gonna, this is for me, that you, because I don't journal and I don't want to journal, but I do like to make books, and I like to collect and save things that people have given me. I've got one particular book that I made that's got all my greeting cards in there, and I have, you know, put them into the book and decorated around them and used them in different ways to decorate. So anyway, so here's actually a piece from my the inspiration book that I'm using in our project. So it's just full of all different paper, and as you can see, you know, the papers that are blank, I haven't decorated them yet because, you know, it's kind of like a well, a scrapbook in a way. So as things are given to me, or as there are little things that I think, oh, I really like that and I want to save it, then I'll put it in here. So there's plenty of place for that. This is a paper bag. This is parchment paper. Notebook paper. Again, from the kitchen garden. Piece of paper that I have sewn a ribbon and a cluster. We will be making ribbons and we'll be making clusters. This is a pocket that's made out of a bag. This is a piece of homemade paper that someone gave me. I've always been a sewer, and so this has got a vintage piece of paper. I think this came out of I know it is. This came out of a book that Mary Tom actually gave me, and I have used that a lot. And I'll tell you, there are sometimes that you get something it's really hard, and you think, oh, do I really want to, you know, really want to tear that up? Well, you know, you have to make that decision. And but for me, this is kept forever in this book, and so when I look at this paper, you know, I can think of a friend who thought enough of me to send me something. So again, this is from that my inspiration book that I have now. I love these Madonnas, and I happen to have had some little that somebody gave me, some medallions that have got saints. I don't know if, I think that's a saint. That's not Mary, but anyway, it fit with the theme, as you can see. And so then over on this page, so you can see how this page kind of goes together. It's one page, and this is happens to be the inside of the signature. And so this one is shorter, this one is longer, and then that way you can see these when you've got this page closed. So I've added some lace on there, tied those on there. Here is a Madonna card that someone has given me. This is just a piece of fabric that I sewed on there by hand, and those are techniques that you're going to learn in this project that we're working on. As I told you before, you know, whatever is on this half, you're going to have the other half on this side. So that's what we're looking at now. This happens to be a paper bag. When I put this in, I put it in with washi tape, handmade washi tape, and then that way this is a standalone piece. It's not sewn in there. It's just taped to another, and you will learn how to do that in this project. Here is a paper bag that has a cinnamon whiskey label on there. So you save things, and you know, that you think, oh, that would be really cool to put in a book. So here's a way that you can do that. Here's a way that you can put it in the book. Here's another thing from the Kitchen Gardens, the Betty Crocker. This particular page flips out so that you can, you know, put more things in here. You could even journal in here if you want, but like I said before, I don't really journal. But sometimes, I don't really journal, but you might want to write things in here. This is a small paper bag that's been made into a pocket. More paper. So here's the other piece of that piano roll piece from that. Okay, so here is the next signature. So this is one signature, this is another signature. I've actually used the cover of that Betty Crocker Kitchen Garden book. This piece of fabric that you see right there is this. So it is sewn into the signature like this. It's wrapped around, and you just got this little piece right here showing. Same way with this. You know, the signature needs some kind of a spine. So as you can see here, this is the fabric that I have sewn onto this cover of this signature. Okay, so here are more books. Sorry, not books, pages from that book. And I have sewn the two of them together and made them into a pocket. And, you know, you'll learn how to make pockets and how to put things in pockets. Here's an embroidery piece that I really like. And before I got this at a junk store, oh gosh, 100 years ago. And before I put it in here, I photocopied it. So I've always got it in photocopy form if I wanted to use it in project. This is some tissue paper that came with a gift that I got. Here's more from that book that Mary Tom gave me. This is just plain old wrapping paper, not wrapping paper, packing paper, shipping paper. More from the Betty Crocker book, more handmade paper. This is an old map back in the day when we used maps. I used this map a lot and traveled back and forth from Kansas City to Tennessee, and oh gosh, we went everywhere. But so currently, this is where this is the route that we took, and this has got some of my sister's handwriting on it when we went from Kansas City down to the Nashville area and back. So that's got her handwriting on there. Here is a bag. Oh, it's a Walgreens bag that I made into a pocket. So I used some washi tape and split that there. It's folded here to make pockets. I like things that are crinkly. So again, this came out of my inspiration book that we're using. More baking paper. This is this actually is a digi, and I use a lot of digis, and you don't have to buy digis. They used to be very cheap. They've really gone up in price a lot, but I do like using digis. And this is one particular designer that I like, Sanami Rose. Again, here's another piece from the book that Mary Tom gave me. And so, okay, so here's a really neat thing. Make sure you can see that good. Okay, so this came out of the inspiration book that I'm currently using, the Dottie Angel book. So Dottie Angel always takes pictures and she doesn't have any head. Well, my granddaughter decided that that looked weird and she needed a head. So she drew a head and colored it and put it on there. And I said, that is awesome. I'm putting it in there. So, you know, here's the chicken lady holding her chicken baby. And I made it into a pocket. So, and you can see that I have sewn it here onto the other side of that Walgreens bag. This is packing paper. It has this natural pocket in it, and so I use that. Here's the other part of that map that shows, of course, Nashville, and then we just live east of Nashville. And more from the Kitchen Garden book. I just love this image right here. Old packing paper, more from Mary Tom. The other part of the embroidered piece. This starts a new signature. No, this is the back end of the signature. So this is the last page. And it has been sewn onto whatever it is that I had in the front. This is Edith. This is an Edith Holden page. So it's from a vintage book that I have torn out. You can see here I've torn it out and sewed it in with a piece of fabric. Looks like old linen. I've made a pocket here out of some old linen. I've done some hand stitching on there, and I made a pocket here, and we will definitely be doing things like this to add to our book. One of the things that I really enjoy is handwork. I can't do it as much as I used to, but I had joined this this slow stitch club, and so I put all these together, and all the little cards, directional cards, and those are in there. And then this was the block of the month. This is the booklet that I made and put it into my book. This is one of the, because the block of the month club came with hand-dyed thread, and this is one of the thread holders that I've attached as a, like a tab. You might call it a tab. More Edith Holden. This was sent to me from a friend, as was this. I think this is really neat. It tells you how to, I don't know, with step 1, step 2, to whatever it is, this training objective, which reminds me very much of all my time that I worked for the government, because back in the day, that's what we used to have those. Just pieces of paper. This came out of that Feed Sack book that I had showed you in an earlier video. This is actually, yeah, so this is more parchment paper. And I had used it when I was dyeing paper. I had used it to put the paper on. And so you can see how it's kind of gone through. This is a piece of packing paper that was all folded up. And I'm like, hey, you know, I kind of like the way that looks. That's kind of cool. So, more handmade paper that I have sewn onto the bag that's on the other side and made a pocket. So this is the bottom of the bag, and I just sewed it to make it into a pocket. More Mary Tom paper. Here is a hanky. It's very, as you can see, it's, you know, very see-through and beautiful. And so I put that in there, and I've had this for a long time too. I used to, when I lived in Kansas City, I went to junk stores all the time. We don't really have junk stores down here. So this is a bag that I got at Chili's, I think. And so I folded it up. I put some stamping on there. And then when you, and you can see how I sewed around it. When you glue it down, you only glue on 3 sides. And then that way you've got a pocket in the back. So there's a pocket in the back. There's this pocket here in the front, which is the part that I folded up. And then this is the inside of the bag. So, and it's attached to that other part of the map. And then, of course, here we go. The Show Me State, my home state. This was a, I have fabric of all the different states. And so I cut that out and hand stitched it to this blue fabric, and then I glued that to this. So you can see it's not stitched in the back, it's just stitched here in the front. So I've made this trip lots and lots of times across the state of Missouri. So here we go. These are all the backs of the pages. Here's another bag that, you know, you can put stuff in, or, you know, and then of course you'll decorate the outside as well. This one happens to be a gusseted bag, and we So if you've got bags like this, save them, pull them all out. And one of the next video I'm planning to show you is kind of like more organization. I know I told you there was only going to be 6 videos. Well, I've already got 9 more videos planned. So hang on, it's going to be a ride. So again, all the backs of the pages. So here's an example of one of the things that we'll learn how to do is just taking scraps of paper or fabric and using them like hinges to hinge this, because you know, I already had my signature done, but I wanted to add that because that's really cool paper. And so I just hinged it with fabric. Back sides of all those. Back sides. The back of the book. This is an old envelope from 1938. This one has got, because sometimes you'll see an opening there. I didn't want an opening. And so I added some paper so that you didn't see that. This was an old piece of linen that was just, it was just rotten, but there were still good parts like this. So I cut them off and put them in my book. And this is the back side. So I wanted to show you this inspiration piece so that you can kind of get an idea of where we're going and what our thoughts are, so that you can start collecting, and maybe this will help you in putting your project together. So anyway, this is Deb. See you in the next video.